Hey, what's up everybody? It's Mike with Innovation REI, making a video today just talking about due diligence. What that is from the perspective of the buyer and the seller. It's basically a period of time that allows the buyer to do their due diligence. That means to do their inspections, any type of surveying they might want to do, to get everything checked out with their lenders, make sure it looks just how it looked when they were pre-approved for a loan. Basically that period of time to just make sure they are happy with the deal, with the house, and that they can move forward in purchasing it. Now, the time period can vary. It's going to be in the contract for the purchase itself. Some really hot markets where there's not a lot of inventory and buyers are going crazy, overbidding, doing all types of crazy things. Might be very short due diligence period. In my market, it probably averages about 15 days from the date of contract where we allow a buyer to do their due diligence, get all their reports back, and then at that point, a buyer basically has two options. They can walk away from a deal if they're not happy with what they find in inspections or whatever the case might be. During that due diligence period, they can basically just walk away from the deal without really much repercussion. The other option, of course, is they can negotiate. And what that means is if a buyer has an inspection and they have a few things that come up on the inspection report that they're worried about, or even if they're not worried about it, they can request for the seller to address those items before the house actually gets to closing. That's actually where I'm at right now. What made me think of this video, I'm at one of our rehabs. It's already under contract. The buyers are in their due diligence period, so they're doing their inspections, and they just submitted that due diligence request to me. And basically at that point, that's why I came here today, to look through the request, make sure, see what I thought was like a legitimate request, or what I thought wasn't something I needed to take care of based off what they were asking and based off the inspections. But it's a very stressful time. Now we do it all the time. We sell so many houses, we're used to due diligence requests. It's not a big deal. Luckily for me, we have a very good crew, and our requests are very small, and they're usually just little tiny items. An inspector is gonna try to find something to put on their report. They don't wanna charge you $200-300 for an inspection report and tell you the house is in perfect condition. So they always find a little bit of something. For a lot of sellers and buyers, it's just a very stressful time. Basically, if something goes past the due diligence period, whatever was allowed on the contract, if a buyer chooses to pull out of the deal after that, they usually lose the earnest money deposit or the due diligence money that they kind of put down on the contract as a, basically it's kind of like good faith money that they're gonna do the deal. Now, if you pull out during your due diligence period, usually there's not repercussions. An earnest money deposit can be returned to the buyer. Of course, if you're putting actual due diligence money down, that's usually non-refundable. The big difference again is the market you're in. If it's super competitive market, sellers know they're gonna get a lot of bids, a lot of activity, then obviously a buyer may put down a bigger due diligence amount, and they might put something there that's non-refundable. Basically, because they're so desperate to get an offer accepted, those are kind of things they do. They do that, they buy as is, they go over asking price, they pay their own closing costs. In my market, it's not like that. Usually people put down earnest money, which again, if they pull out of the deal during their due diligence period, they get that money refunded to them. So they're really only in it for the cost of inspections and things like that. But I just want to tell you guys, try not to stress about it. It's a negotiation. That's exactly what the due diligence period is. Understand, once a house is under contract, the buyer wouldn't have put an offer in if they didn't want the home, and the seller wouldn't have had it on the market if they didn't want to sell the home. So usually, when somebody takes the effort and puts in an offer on something, and we have a contract, usually everybody involved wants to close the deal. If you're a buyer, make sure you're paying attention and make sure you're doing things that are logical. If you're gonna request a lot of work on a due diligence, on your due diligence request, make sure it's something feasible that you would expect somebody to do. And sellers also keep that in mind. If you know something needs done, if it's something you would want taken care of, if you were a buyer, or if it's something that would cause you concern, then keep that in mind and be a respectful seller as well. So with that said, if you guys have any other questions, obviously leave us some comments. Let us know if you have any crazy experiences on due diligence requests, or if you have strategies that might work that you're able to, usually get out of those things pretty easy as a seller, whatever the case might be. But anyway, we'd love to hear from you. You guys go out, do great things, do your due diligence. It's very important. Make sure, if you're buying, make sure it's the right house for you at the right price. And if you're selling, obviously just be respectful of what the buyer's requesting. We'll talk to you guys next time. Y'all take care.